Hey, Cheeky Clinic friends. Thanks for coming back here today. And today we are going to jump onto GLP-1 medications and how they are next level. Everybody thinks these things are for weight loss and diabetes, but there is so much more going on with them. And we are going to break it down for you today because it is just wild.
You're listening to the Cheeky Clinic podcast. I'm Dr. Chris Delp.
And I'm Cat Parker-Delp, owner of Duluth Med Spa.
If you've arrived at a point in life where good enough is simply just not good enough for you, you're in the right place.
Here we cover topics like sexual health and wellness, hormonal balance, and body optimization. And we deliver to you lessons from our travels from hard-to-get-to places around the world.
We are so excited you're here to venture off the beaten path with us into the taboo where no subject is off limits.
Welcome to the Cheeky Clinic. Let's dive in. Go ahead.
All right. You raised your eyebrows at me, and I thought maybe you were going to take this one, but I'll kick this all off. We're going to be talking about this entire class of medications, GLP-1s. They are the rage. And there's a lot of myths out there. So we're going to do a little bit of myth busting during this episode and try to give you enough information to see if maybe these medications are right for you and who should be on these medications, who should not be on these medications. Let me just start with what are these medications. I'm between the two of us. I'm the geek, so I'm the science nerd. Being a physician, I'm certainly the science nerd on all of this. So these GLP medicines, they're glucagon-like peptides. And what's a peptide? A peptide is just a small protein. If it's under 50 amino acids, it's a peptide. If it's over 50 amino acids, it's a protein. There's just a random distinction there. Your body communicates in two ways. It communicates with hormones and it communicates with peptides. The most famous peptide that everybody knows is insulin. This is just another one of your body's peptides. So these medications, semaglutide, these are peptides that are found naturally in your body. We're hijacking them for weight loss by just changing one amino acid, slightly modifying it to make them last longer in your body for profound effects. These effects, we've got some personal experience because you jumped on board this along with everybody in Hollywood.
Yes, I did. I did jump on board with these. I was having a terrible time with menopausal weight gain, and nothing was working at all. It was I could see my fasting glucose lab results over a few years times period when I would go in for my annual checkup each year. They was just kind of rising and rising. And, it was at 98 at one point, but that didn't give me the yellow, worry flag for anybody. But for me, I'm like, well, it's, what are we going to wait until 2 years from now when when I do get the red flag, when the doctor finally says, well, now you're pre-diabetic. I didn't want to wait to get to that point because I could see that I was trending that way. So I did jump on board of these, and I'm so grateful for that I did. I've taken both Semaglutide and Terzepatide. I do microdosing now. Love it, love it, love it. And it's been very beneficial for me for a lot of reasons.
And you started this because of some comments made by your husband?
No.
No, my survival instinct is too great for that.
Never.
So these medications were originally designed to be for diabetes because they normalize your blood sugar. But when they were first started for diabetes, people lost a lot of weight. So we started to explore some of these things. Now, the medications, semaglutide, Wegovy, and Ozempic are all the exact same thing. And that was the original one that was started for diabetics. Everybody lost weight on it. And they're like, well, why is everybody losing weight? And what we found is that these things act in three ways. They act directly on the brain. They shut off all cravings. So much so, there's several clinics that are exploring the use of this for treatment for addiction. We've had people that lost their craving to smoke, to drink, but food cravings just go away. Quiets the brain. Did you have a food noise?
I did not have so much of a food noise. I'm a natural faster. Typically, I don't get hungry until 2 or 3 each day, and that's just natural for me unless you cook breakfast and I smell the bacon cooking, then then it's game on. But I typically am not hungry, and so I don't have a ton of food noise. Um, I did notice a huge difference on semaglutide when I was taking that it did really. I would pour a glass of wine in the evening and would maybe drink a fourth of it. I had no desire for it. I still would pour a glass or have a glass at dinner, never finished a single glass of
So
it.
let's just be very clear here. That is not you at all.
Not at all.
So that's the first mechanism is just quieting the brain. The second is reducing gastric emptying. So you feel what you like to call Thanksgiving full, even with small amounts. And then the third way that it acts is the blood sugar action. And basically, it's preventing your body from turning extra blood sugar into fat. And what we're finding is that a lot of weight gain is related to that mechanism, that you have certain glycemic triggers. Everybody's glycemic trigger can be a little bit different. We've eaten the same thing, and we have continuous glucose monitors that we're wearing and comparing. We'll eat the exact same thing. I'll eat a ton of rice, nothing, and your blood sugar will skyrocket. Opposite happens with popcorn. So some of this is very individualized. So with those 3 different mechanisms, that's where all this weight loss comes from. And then we start looking at other aspects of this, because this semaglutide has been around for 10 years. And so we're starting to see other benefits from this. As the stroke director, I look at data. There's clearly a reduction in stroke and heart attack. There's other benefits, and I think some of them were things that you noticed, the anti-inflammatory component to that. There's the use for treatment for fatty liver disease. It's been shown to that. There's been a suggestion that overall these things will reduce your cancer incidence. And they're seeking FDA approval for use of these medications for treatment for Alzheimer's disease.
Yes.
Some people, I've
And I'm
heard
gonna
the term bantered around Alzheimer's being type 3 diabetes.
Yeah, and I believe that is actually in phase 3 trials right now with, one of the drug manufacturers, and it will you can mark my words here, I believe that that will be passing, and what a great thing that will be for Alzheimer's treatments. That decrease in inflammation in the brain, I believe, and, the other funny thing that I've been hearing a lot of online and on TikTok is that, um Ozempic will get you pregnant. Ozempic, makes you pregnant. Did you get pregnant on Ozempic?
Because you look
And
better?
because well, I don't know if it's that, but it does actually. That is actually there's some truth to that, in that women are ovulating better. It's the PCOS people that with PCOS
There may be some
are
people don't know what that word means.
polycystic ovarian syndrome. And can you explain that a little bit and why somebody might get pregnant better on Ozempic?
Yeah. So the polycystic ovarian syndrome has a lot of elements to it, but one of those is insulin resistance. And this certainly treats that. There's a hormonal imbalance that occurs with that. But fat cells in both men and women produce small amounts of estrogen. If you have a lot of fat, then it makes your hormone balance more difficult to achieve. And so, as you drop your weight, your hormone balance becomes easier to regulate, and that's where some of the pregnancies are occurring.
And on that note, not to change the subject off men and women, but on that note, men decreasing their weight, what does that do with their hormones? Is there, do they have, are they, how does that affect them as far as their, male hormones and testosterone and things like that?
So even small amounts of estrogen in a man can have profound anti-testosterone effects, and so for the men, having that balance is really essential in order to maintain your testosterone, the beneficial effects of your testosterone, of which there are many, and we'll be discussing those the hormonal balance in a later podcast, because that's what we're trying to achieve is balancing all of that out. And there's lots of different ways to do that. One of them is through hormones, which can also help with weight loss as well. But the common question, that probably the most common question I get is, do I have to be on this for the rest of my life? And the answer is you don't have to be, but why wouldn't you want to be? People are so reluctant. They feel like I failed exercise, I failed diet, and now I'm doing this. Don't tell anybody that I'm doing this, because I could always work out more and I could always eat better. Yeah, you could, but why wouldn't you want to be on a medication that reduces your risk of stroke, heart attack, helps prevent all of these diseases, including cancer,
Including Alzheimer's.
yeah, and so why would you be reluctant to do something that improves your health so much? And
Autoimmune problems it's helping with as well.
yeah, the list goes on and on the kind of health benefits. So there's certain classes of medications that we've come up with, like the statins, that had all sorts of benefits that we discovered later on during this. And this is another one of those medications that we keep finding more and more improves kidney function. There's some downsides, some rare side effects. Any medication can cause any side effect at some point, and very, very rare. Some of the things that they've found in case reports: a little inflammation of the pancreas, pancreatitis. There was some visual problems that they encountered, and very, very rare. Again, these are things that are so rare. They're case reports that have been reported in the literature. But the upside to these is just so far outweighs the risks, that balance sheet is tipped very heavy in favor of these.
I think one of the most important things about being on GLP-1s is getting a provider that understands your need to that yes, anybody can take this drug and sit on the couch and lose weight. But it really should be looked at as a drug that is going to benefit your health in all other aspects. It's not just about weight loss. And I try to just let people know this is not all about weight loss. There's so many other benefits to your body. But you have to also put that work in. And to be on a drug, yes, you can lose weight on it. But if you're going to sit and take this long term, and not do some strength training and increase your and watch your protein intake and make note of the fact that you are in a calorie deficit. And so what calories you do put in your mouth need to be a good protein, a grass-fed protein. It needs to be a really good protein that you're eating, so that you don't lose muscle. When we're dieting in a calorie deficit, people will lose muscle regardless of the weight loss drug, and I think people think it's just Ozempic that causes that, but it's really the lack of protein intake. But I think it's important to note that this can be a great long-term drug, especially if it's microdosed correctly to maintain your health and to help benefit you. But you need to be at the gym 3 days a week, doing some strength training, but those are things that you should be doing anyway, not just because you're on the medication. You should incorporate those strength trainings and healthy diet in your lifestyle, regardless of what medication you're on.
So what you're speaking to is what is your ultimate objective? And for all of us, our ultimate objective
Is
is
to look hot.
Yeah. and you've achieved that. So is to feel better and do
Definitely.
more.
Mhm.
None of us want to be immobile. None of us, and the best way to do that is through exercise. That there's all of these supplements that people can take for longevity. There's all sorts of things that you can do, but the single most overriding anti-aging thing you can do is exercise. That also, we just can't say that enough. That this medication is a bridge to help you get there. It makes it easier to exercise. Now you don't have the inflammation. Now the weight's dropping off. You're exercising. We encounter all these people that come to us and say, I exercise 3 times a week, and I'm tracking my diet, and I'm not losing weight. I'm doing everything right. What's going on? Well, what's going on is your stress hormones are through the roof. You've got increased cortisol levels causing centralized weight gain. You've got some intrinsic insulin resistance. That's an epidemic in our country.
Such an epidemic.
And you've got all of these. There's even an experiment that showed that the bacteria in our gut can influence weight gain, and it was a great experiment. They have all of these mouse models, and they took the bacteria from the guts of the chubby mice, and they gave it to the skinny mice, and those skinny mice gained weight. And the same opposite thing happened as they took the skinny mice bacteria out of their gut, gave it to the chubby mice, and the chubby mice lost weight. So the bacteria in our gut can influence that as well. So there's lifestyle modification, there's exercise, but this is I look at this as um, a lot of our lifestyle in our country got us to this place.
Absolutely, our diet growing up. I
Hmm.
look at the diet that I was fed growing up, and it was so processed. It is unreal to me that I don't have more issues than I had. I mean, I grew up on processed food, and I think as we age, especially going through menopause, you start getting that insulin, you become insulin resistant.
What was that sandwich that you had growing up where they would microwave Velveeta?
Oh, that was Mamaw Special. That was the Mamaw Special. We had 2 pieces of white bread, Wonder Bread, and a, slice of Kraft cheese taken right out of the plastic and put in between the 2 pieces of bread and wrap it in a paper towel and put it in the microwave for 30 seconds, and that was Mamaw Special. I mean,
Yeah,
just the diets as that we
that's a Texas thing.
ate.
We don't do that in Minnesota.
The diets that we've had over the years have I think it is an epidemic. I think that the health of Americans, um, you know, it'll be interesting to see how the GLP-1 thing plays out in the long term, and I think the people that are going to have, um, issues from taking it regarding muscle problems are the people that were not lifting, doing strength training, and eating correctly and getting that protein in. But I wanna reiterate, those are things that we should be doing anyway. I think people just taking the drug, it's not gonna benefit you in the long term just to take this medication. It will benefit you in the long term to take this medication microdosed and improve your health and continue a good diet and continue with strength training.
I look at this as a correction of our of living in the United States. This levels the playing field and said, yeah, we've had bad diets growing up. Yeah, we're the vast majority of Americans are obese. Level the playing field, and what you do from it with it from there is up to you. You can maintain that same diet and lack of exercise, or this levels the playing field, and now you have the opportunity to
To
change.
correct it. Mhm.
And so we've partnered up with someone. Um,
We'll
uh,
announce that at a later time as well and have her on the show to talk about, some strength training, I think.
yeah, that would be great because this is part of our focus is not just to give a medication and call it good, but our objective is to help people with some lifestyle modification along with that.
And I think the person that will be, have on the show to discuss some of that is, also, I believe her main goal is for lifestyle and to have strength and to have longevity due to, your choices in your activity level and your diet. And it's a great, it's a great thing.
One thing that we don't talk about enough, another kind of taboo thing is mental health.
Oh, yeah.
And the impact that weight has on mental health. You and I have both experienced clients that have become tearful when they're describing that they haven't had their picture taken for years. They avoid the camera. They don't because they don't feel like the camera reflects who they are on the inside, and the mental health benefits. Um, are huge when you start to drop the weight. Now you're doing more. You're feeling your social activity goes up as well as your physical activity. And when you can boost your social and physical activity both, the benefits from that I
Mhm.
can't be understated at all. That's crazy good.
Yeah, it is. It's a great, I feel like it's a medication that is, it's not just about weight loss.
Yeah, it's about the yeah, all of those other things, the anxiety that people have, food anxiety. There's so many people that are always thinking about food, and if you can turn off that voice and free up your mind to be more creative with other things because you're not thinking about that all the time, that's another huge benefit there.
And I think it's important to talk about too is while you do have that voice turned off and you're not thinking about food all the time, that it does give you the ability to make better choices about your food. And people should use that time period when they are on the higher dosing, weight loss dosing, not just microdosing, but when they're on these doses for weight loss, use that time that you don't have the food voice to make the changes in your lifestyle and the food changes that you want to maintain for long term. Because it's helpful to, to not have the craving for the bag of chips. And then you're like, well, I need to eat. I'm going to make a healthy choice because you can do that. You don't have that food voice. So use that time period as a beneficial time period to retrain your eating style that you have had poor in the past.
You're not going to be craving that, so it's a good time to go through that kitchen
Yep.
and get rid of all of those processed foods.
Yeah. I
The jury's
agree.
no longer out. Processed foods cause cancer. The data is overwhelming. That's those processed foods, but they taste good, and they fit into a busy lifestyle. And if you're always thinking about food, then you're always. It's nice to have those things around because you're craving those things. Some interesting data that going back to the bacterial component to that, which has become such a huge thing, that the more sugars and sweets that we eat, then there's the bacteria that like those things in our gut, of course, will predominate. And the bacteria that like those things tend to produce substances that mimic the hunger hormone ghrelin. So literally, the more sugars you eat, the hungrier you get, and the more you crave those things. So it's another cycle that you can break with this by changing. You eliminate those cravings. You start to eat healthier. You actually change the biome in your
Mhm.
gut
Mhm.
by doing that, and that has as another cascade effect that's beneficial.
And what do you feel is, there's a lot of talk about muscle loss in this. medication. And what are your thoughts on protein intake and recommendations for anyone taking this medication, or even if you're not on this medication, protein recommendations for dietary needs in order to prevent that?
So protein is critical. And when we talk about muscle loss with these medications, I think you made the point that it's anytime you're losing weight,
Mhm.
you
It's
run the
not the
risk of muscle
medication
loss.
itself.
Yeah, you're running the risk of muscle loss, and then now all of a sudden you're not eating that much at all, and so you've got to make, first of all, eat your protein first, because you're not going to finish your plate of food. We were all members, proud members of the Clean Plate Club growing
Growing
up.
up,
Yep,
yep.
yep. You got to
Don't get
clean
out,
your
yeah.
plate. Got to clean your
Don't get
plate.
up from the table till your plate's clean,
Yeah,
right?
sometimes with disastrous consequences, uh, for you at least. Story for another time. But eating your protein first, and then seeing what kind of supplementation you need. So it's going to take, it takes a little bit of work to look up, how many grams of protein in an egg, how many grams this, and then what should your target be.
What should
And
the target be?
well, if you're looking at not losing muscle, you're talking about 1 to 1.5 grams per kilo
Minimum.
minimum. So that's where you should start. It's very difficult to do. I oftentimes will throw a little protein powder in my coffee in the morning, a little chocolate whey powder, makes it taste like a latte. But to start out that, because it's very hard when you calculate it out.
It's
It
hard.
is hard to get that amount of protein in there. But if especially for females, bone loss follows muscle loss,
Mhm.
and women are already at risk for osteoporosis.
Exactly.
So again, going back to the exercise component, but if it doesn't do you any good if you're not supporting your muscles with protein.
Yeah, I agree. I
How do you
agree.
get your protein?
I try to stick to the 90 gram a day. I'm horrible at it because, like I said, I'm a natural faster. And then you cook this delicious, healthy meal at night, and I get, not too much of that in before I'm Thanksgiving Day full. Um, but I do use supplementation. I use Isopure, which is a great drink mix. It's got no added sugars, no calorie. It's a protein drink, and I can get 32 grams per drink of that. So typically, I'll get at least 65 grams a day, around 62, 65 grams a day. Just from a protein supplement. And that's just for me because I do have such a difficult time getting that in. I can try to do eggs in the morning, and I know that I should. I try to get protein in before I go for strength training class, but it's hard. It's hard to get that in, so I do have to make a conscious effort to get the protein in because, like for everyone, it should be about long term health, not um, a quick a quick fix, not a quick fix diet, but for long-term health benefits.
And there is a little bit of appetite suppression with protein intake, so that helps. In addition to that, um, so not to underplay the role of diet and exercise when you're comparing these medications, those are critical, but oftentimes it's not enough. And to add to your health, with these medications, I hated phentermine. The side effect profile was so high,
Horrible.
but sometimes people needed it because their risk of developing diseases was so high because of their weight, that risk benefit still favored using something like this. But now we've got a medication that's got health
Benefit of
benefits.
cardioprotection,
Yeah.
benefits of neuroprotection, benefits of kidney protection.
So the guidance that I give people is, focus on the protein, get exercise in, any kind of exercise. Just there's of course, a good strength
Strength
training.
training.
Personal trainers have a huge benefit in people. When you have somebody interacting with you, it's motivating. They're trained to motivate you, and so they're very good at it. I'm not a good self-motivator. So diet and exercise, when that's not enough, why wouldn't you add a medication that helps you in other ways?
I agree. Yeah, that's a why wouldn't you? It's got so many benefits
Yeah.
to it.
So I think this sum up is if you are struggling, and sometimes it's because the weight itself can cause joint aches, all of those things. And if that's you're struggling to and want to exercise but you can't yet, then this is a great medication. If you are exercising and you've hit a fat set point where your body's just holding on to that fat, then this is a good medication. If you've got cravings that are out of control and a food voice that never stops, this is a great medication. There's the benefits from this are so much greater
So much
than
greater than weight loss.
than weight loss. Um, if you have any questions about this, please ask. This whole drive to get people active is where our passion lies, and this is a great way to do it. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for joining us on a cheeky adventure through the world of wellness. Follow our spicy tips, laugh out loud stories, and expert advice designed to keep you feeling youthful, vibrant, and always in the loop.
Follow the show so you don't miss a beat. Stay connected and let's keep the fun going.
And if there's a subject that you'd like to hear more about, please let us know. You can connect with us by clicking the contact link below or send us a message on social media.
Make sure to send this episode to a friend who could benefit from today's topics. And don't forget to leave the show a 5-star review.
Thanks for listening to The Cheeky Clinic. We'll see you in the next one.